Negative externalities, concept number 3. When I say externality, I mean somebody that is not the primary buyer or seller is being impacted in some way, either positively or negatively by it, right? So a negative externality means there's costs that are greater than what is being taken into account in the marketplace, right? So for example, pollution has a negative externality, right? When people are buying diesel for diesel cars and diesel trucks, they aren't taking into account the fact that it is going to cause more pollution and harm our environment. In the same way, smoking, people who are buying their cigarettes and the business who are selling the cigarettes are not taking into account the social costs that they should, that other people who inhale this in secondhand could potentially die from that, even though they haven't smoked a cigarette in their life. Spillover costs, people who are not a part of the market being impacted. So in this case, it's negative, and this means that we are producing too much of it. We want less of this in society. It's something bad, right? Like cigarette smoking, for example, or vaping, if you will. So here we have MSB and MSC again, and then we're going to introduce one more thing called MPC in this particular one. So MSB, marginal social benefit, is equal to demand, just like it was in our public good market, equal to demand right here. See it? Right? Downward sloping, because as the quantity goes up, the additional benefit society gets, the additional benefit that they want from it goes down because there's more and more of it, right? That's the idea. But we keep it constant. It's demand equals MSB. It's just one downward sloping curve. It's good. We keep it there because we're not dealing with benefit. When it's a negative externality, we care about costs. We say social benefit is taken care of, right? We're not arguing the benefit of it. We're arguing that there's an additional cost to it that's not being taken into account. So that's right here with our MPC and our MSC. MPC is marginal private costs. This is the cost that the business actually takes into account when they're producing the good, right? That's MPC, marginal private costs. But they're not taking into account the social costs. So they're taking into account the private costs of making the cigarettes, the tobacco, the wrapping, the packaging, the advertising, wages for the labor. All of that is taken into account. But they're not taking into account the social costs of people who are going to be negatively impacted by this when it's actually going on. In fact, we believe the social costs are higher than the private costs because they're not taking into account that people inhaling this smoke secondhand could potentially die from it. We want them to take that into account, but they're not. So as a result, MPC is less than MSC. We see that right here. Supply equals marginal private costs right there, and our marginal social cost is up here. Keep in mind, supply is going to be where we are currently producing right now. That's why it's marginal private cost. Until the government gets involved, we know supply is going to equal marginal private cost, or marginal private cost, not social cost, because they won't take into account society's costs without government regulation. All right? So the social costs are not accounted for, and this provides a market failure. It's going to be deadweight loss for a couple of reasons. First, this price is too low, right? We believe that these things should be priced higher. Why? Because we want to discourage people from smoking cigarettes, for example. We also believe the quantity is too high. Look at our free market quantity. It's way up here. Socially optimal quantity, which we know is where MSB equals MSC. We learned that in the public goods section just a minute ago, right? Socially optimal quantity right here is lower than that. So we can see that here, right? It's lower than that. So this is where I want to be, but this is where I'm at right now. That's deadweight loss, the distance between where I want to be and where I am right now. So where I am right now, right here, that's going to be my cutoff point. I chop it, right? And I chop it off. Where I want to be is back here. The difference between those two things is this triangle right here, and that's deadweight loss. Keep in mind, this is a little bit different than the location or deadweight loss before. The same concept, right? We find where we're currently producing, free market. We dash up, that's our chopper, chops off the market. We find where we want to be. That's the end point of the triangle. Chop, end point. That's going to be our deadweight loss. So it takes a little bit more work to get there. So what's the solution? How do we fix this market? The solution is a per unit tax. We're going to do a per unit tax on the supply. And when we do that, we're going to move the supply curve to the left, right? We're going to keep on moving it to the left until MSC is equal to MPC and equal to supply, meaning that's where I'm currently producing, right? We are going to move this until we are producing at the socially optimal quantity at the socially optimal price. Negative externality. Get it? Got it? Great. Moving on.